It's all you, sir.
Thank you, Phil. Can you guys hear me all right? We good to go? Thank you, Phil. Thank you for the introduction. Yeah, you thought my name was Theory, right? And I was like, you could call me that. Spiritual life is not a theory. My name is Terry. I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date's June 1st, 2019. I have a sponsor. I have a home group. It's Bronx Big Book Study. We meet every single night, 9 p.m., line by line, different speaker every single night. And they don't tell their opinions. They tell their experience from the text. I also run a workshop on Sundays called Burst into Merriment. Awesome meeting. First 5 minutes, we tell AA jokes to burst into merriment. And then we go through the actual work. It's not a big book study. We're not looking up definitions and stuff like that. We're going through the work. If you're interested, come and join us. Yeah, let's get rock and rolling. And it's been a long time since I've spoken, and there's a really good reason for that. It talks about on page 19 of our book, of our text, it says a much more important demonstration of our principles lies before us in our respective homes, occupations, and affairs. And they're in that order for a particular reason. If I'm not demonstrating these principles at home, I'm not going to have a home, period. If I'm not demonstrating these principles at work, I'm not going to have a job. If I'm not demonstrating these principles in all my affairs, I will collide with you. I will step on your toes. You will retaliate. I will get angry. I will say, how dare you? And then I'll go into self-pity, and then I'll think drink solution, drink answer. There's 75 pages dedicated to step 12, right? Working with others, 2 wives, family afterwards, 2 employers, and vision for you. Read them, study them, make them a way of life, become a demonstration of those words. And what I was doing as a rule, I believe it's on page 126, in the beginning of recovery, I was an enthusiast. As a rule, I threw myself at making money. I wanted to make money. And as another rule, all I did was talk about this way of life. And who did I ignore? My family, right? And what was happening, there was a separation at home, and I didn't know what was happening. I thought this is my way of life. This is the way things have to be and all that. Yeah, I missed the word balance in the family afterwards. So yet again, I've committed to only speaking twice a month moving forward. And there's a big part, I used to say yes, yes, yes. In the beginning of recovery, it's really important to say yes, 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 right? Why say yes? Because I like to say no. I love saying no. I remember I made amends to one of my friends. I said, how can I make this right? And he told me what to say. And then after that, I said, is there anything else that I've harmed you or have done any wrong towards you? And he's like, you know what? There is something, Terry. I used to count how many times you used to say no to me. He said 242 times. He counted them. And I said, I'll make sure to say yes. If it's applicable, I will be there. And I haven't disappointed him. And we're still friends today. This guy is a really close friend of mine. He gave me a free truck. And I started my own business with this truck. I mean, talk about a process of recreating your life from the bottom up, right? But saying yes at critical times and making sure that God consciousness is involved is very important in my life today. And when I was saying yes too much, I was losing what? I wasn't listening to that inner voice inside. You know what I'm talking about? That little voice that tells you to stop fully at a stop sign instead of blowing right through it. That's what I'm talking about. God consciousness, right? So it's an honor and privilege to be here. And I see a lot of people here. And if there's anyone new, welcome, right? Don't keep coming back, stay. Do what we do, right? This is a program for people who do not want it, who want it. It's not a program for people who need it. It's a program for people who do it. Do the work and watch God work on your life. I'll give you guys a promise. I was told this, and I'll pass along this promise over to you. If you do exactly what it says and how it works, exactly what it says, and do exactly what it says in action, and just try to help other alcoholics and demonstrate these principles in all your affairs, you will stay sober for the rest of your life. You will stay sober for the rest of your life. And that is my experience as of today. I am still sober because of that. So before I drank, I had this internal discomfort, this internal dis-ease, this feeling of inadequacy, feeling of insecurity, fear of what other people thought of me, right? There's a line on page 52. It's one of our bedevilments. It says, we couldn't make a living. And I was taught to take statements and turn into questions, right? Why do that? Because the book starts to talk to you personally. I could read all day about the first 100 and how boring they are. But when you take the book and you read it in first person, you take statements and turn into questions, the book starts to talk to you. right? And I was asked that question. I was like, yeah, that's an easy guess. I'm in rehab in Minnesota. I don't even know where I'm at in Minnesota. Am I near Canada? Am I near Iowa? Am I near North Dakota? Where am I? Why does everybody sound like they have a Southern accent mixed with a French Canadian accent? What's up with these weird witchcraft words called OPE? OPE. What is that? Let's just say oops, not OPE. What's you betcha? I don't understand that. That's easy, yes. But after studying this book a little bit further, it means I'm not comfortable living in my own skin. And that's exactly how I felt before I drank. Then I found alcohol. The answer to all my problems. When I was drinking, I was amazed before I was halfway through. When I was drinking, I was going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. When I was drinking, the feeling of self-pity and uselessness went away. When I was drinking, I suddenly realized that alcohol was doing for me what I could never do for myself. Right. And I went to 4 rehabs when I was in high school. I was mandated to these rehabs, more like mom dated to these rehabs. And when I got out, I didn't want to stop. It talks about in the doctor's opinion, men and women drink essentially because they like the effects produced by alcohol. I like to change that word like to love. I love the effect produced by alcohol. And about 4 years prior to me stopping, I had this utter inability to leave alcohol alone. I developed what is called a phenomenon of craving, which comes in form of an allergy. In the 1930s, definition-wise, the word allergy meant an abnormal reaction to food, beverage, or substance. What does that mean? Whenever I drink, I get thirstier. I want more, right? I take a drink, the drink takes a drink, and the drink takes me. I remember I took a drink 7 hours prior to a wedding, Dan, 7 hours prior to a wedding. And what happened? I ended up in a different state. And I remember calling up my wife. I'm like, hey, sweetheart, I just got hit by a car. I can't make the wedding. Talking about cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, right? And I had this physical love affair with alcohol, right? When I drink, I get thirstier, right? However, when I'm sober, I have an abnormal reaction to abstinence. I have an abnormal reaction to sobriety. I'm restless, irritable, and I'm discontented unless I get ease and comfort with a few drinks. I don't know about you, Phil, but I get ease and comfort by just being on the liquor line. The cops, actually, I get ease and comfort by stealing your wallet, help you look for it. Then I'm on the liquor line about the cops and booze, right? And I would succumb to this obsession. The phenomenon of craving would kick in, and I'm stuck in this trap, going over and over and over. And the doctor's opinion talks about we need an entire psychic change. And what is an entire psychic change? That's a spiritual experience, right? Life goes on, but it reacts differently. Looking at life through a different pair of glasses, having a personality change. I thought everybody was brainwashed when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, especially Giselle from Las Vegas. My brain needed to be washed. Guys, I was outright mental defective when I came in here, right? And then in 2018, I had a heart attack. I was in the movie theaters of Dobbs Ferry, New York, and I lost my breath. And I was like, oh, what was that? And I look over my wife. I'm like, hey, I don't feel too good. And she's like, yeah, okay. You're always sick. You're quiet wolf at this point, right? And then all of a sudden she's like, all right, we're going to go to the hospital. I'm like, no, no, no. You said I was okay. I'm okay. We're going home. And I go home and I lose my breath again. And then I lose my breath about 10 to 15 seconds. And those are excruciating seconds. I'm lying on my couch, kind of like this way, with my chest to the cushions. And all of a sudden, my cat comes up. He has 2 feet on the floor, one paw on the base of the couch, and then takes one arm, pulls my shoulder back, and I lock eyes with my cat. Guys, I've never seen my cat do this in my entire life. And I said, okay, I'll go to the hospital. Guys, I had 5 bypass open heart surgery. They put a balloon pump in to keep me alive, right? And I'm in the hospital. Guys, I'm detoxing in the hospital, shaking, right? And the doctor's like, what's wrong with you? You're hitting that morphine button every 8 minutes, right? I didn't want to tell them what was wrong, right? Grasping and developing a manner of life that demands rigorous honesty. Yeah, okay. I polished to perfection a manner of life that demanded rigorous dishonesty. I didn't want anyone to know who I was, how I searched madly for the bottle every single morning, how I stole Phil's wallet and helped him look for it. I lived a double life. I lived a double life. And the doctor point blank looked in my face. He said, Terry, if you ever drink again, you will be back here or you will be dead. And I stayed sober because of fear, because of that. I'm going to throw this out there. Fear is an unreliable higher power, period. It's a false God. I'm going to throw this out there as well. Success is an unreliable higher power. People are unreliable higher power. Self-knowledge is an unreliable higher power. It doesn't help us in those strange mental blank spots. Bill called it the insanity before the first drink. He actually coined it as being time out of mind. I am unable at certain times to bring into my awareness with sufficient force the pain and humiliation what just happened a week or a month or 6 months or 5 years or 10 years ago. I'm without a defense against the first drink. I'm part of the no matter what club. I'm going to drink no matter what. It's going down unless I arrest my alcoholism with action and with God's aid, right? We have an insane thought. It talks about it more about alcoholism all the way. All the Fred, Jim, carpet slipper dude, or they all have an insane thought, and then they take a decision/action on that decision, on that insane thought, right? And they all drink. And what we're doing, there's a small space between that insane thought and that decision. It's a very small space, but occupies a very, very large God. And I did not have that defense, and I picked up right where I left off 3 months later. Fast forward about a year ago, I get a call from my wife. She's in the hospital. She had blood clots in her lungs. Her dad died of 50 blood clots. Her sister died of 30 blood clots. And what was my reaction? You know, you expect a normal husband to be by her side, holding her hand, saying, "It's all going to be all right. I'm here for you." I got trashed. I blacked out. I thought it was 2 days later, but according to her, it's 5. And she always makes sure that I mention this when I get to this point, that when she called me and I picked up the phone, I told her I could care less if she lived or died. That was me, a tornado roaring through the lives of others. And she's home 5 days later. I'm like, how'd you get home? What the hell happened? And I said, okay, I have a problem. And I started going to Alcoholics Anonymous, and I started to hear my story. And I'm like, that's me. Look, the miracle of identification is beautiful. I thought it was this lone wolf, this lone ranger, the only one that thought the way I thought, the only one that felt the way I felt. But no, I literally have twins. I have twins in Las Vegas. I got twins in Tennessee. I got twins in Ohio. I got twins in Maryland. I got twins all over the world, right? Same story, different circumstances. That's why we tell our stories in Alcoholics Anonymous. Don't stop telling your story if you're a speaker. Keep telling it. You never know who you're going to help. You never know. And I heard this word God when I was in there, and it just bristled with antagonism, right? And it's kind of funny. If you ever read Bill's story, Evie, he approaches Bill and he said, "I've got religion," right? Basically, Evie was saying, "I've been saved." Right? And all of a sudden, Bill's like, whoa, hold on, time out. I don't want to hear that. He takes the next 3 pages about his little imaginary journey about how does he think about God, his preconceived thoughts or his doubts, right? And then he's like, hold on, time out. Hold on, this guy's sober. Hold on, time out. He was a worse drunk than me. Hold on, time out. Like, this guy was taken to another state because his brother was running for governor, and they didn't want his family to be a disappointment, so they sent him off to Vermont, right? And all of a sudden, this guy's in Vermont, paints this house, and then these ungrateful pigeons come down, and he takes a shotgun to the house and shoots up the house. The police call on him. Hold on, time out. The last time I heard, he was supposed to be locked up for alcoholic insanity. Hold on, time out. They both went on a plane at this new airplane field that opened up and got out and then fell flat on their face drunk. Hold on, time out. He's sober and I'm not, right? He was on a different footing. His feet grasped new soil. The power of God was working through Evie. That's why we tell our testimonies in Alcoholics Anonymous. You never know who you're going to help. And it cracked open that idea, that step 2 idea, that maybe there's something out there. And I'm still going to these meetings, right? And I'm trying, at this point in my life, I was trying to purposely drink myself to death. I did not want to wake up. And I keep waking up. I'm like, what's up, God? Why am I still here? Why are you keeping me alive, right? And then I bump into this kid. You know, guys, I was 100% hopeless. I needed divine intervention. I needed divine help, right? And I bump into this kid. He had his shirt off, and he had the same open heart surgery scar I did. And I get out of the car. He was in AA, and I was in AA. He was drunk. I was on my way to go get drunk. I thought it was this lone wolf, the youngest person ever to drink after having open heart surgery. There was a kid right there, 20 years old, He had 14 strokes before his open heart surgery. And I said, oh my God, I'm not alone. And later on that day, I'm at Subway, and guys, I'm broke. I lost $30,000 in 1 month. I'm living in my car. I'm going through a divorce with my wife. I weighed 135. To give you an idea, I weigh 170 now. I'm cutting my own hair. It's growing that way, this way. I haven't showered in months. Right? And all of a sudden, this song comes on called A Million Dreams by The Greatest Showman, that movie where I had a heart attack. And I started crying. And I said, okay, I'll go to rehab. And I checked myself into rehab in this place. It's a mindfulness rehab in Brooklyn, New York. And I remember walking in there, and they were like, like, how long you been sober? And I was like, a week. And they're like, Terry, it's still your system. And I'm like, yesterday, the last time I drank. And they like turned the light switch on and off. It was like a weird bright light. I finally got honest. It was just odd. And then 5 days in, guys, I'm ready to go home, feel better, look better, right? I remember calling my mom, like, hey, Mom, I'm feeling great. I got great AA at home. I'm ready to come home. I'm living in my car. I got nowhere else to go. She's like, no, Terry, you need to stay there. You're safe and protected. And I'm looking at myself in the mirror on my phone, just looking like that. And I'm like, you know what, Mom, I'm lying. I just wanted to get home and get drunk, and I needed a place to stay. I got off the phone, and I got down on my knees, and I abandoned myself utterly to a power greater than myself that I never believed in, never experienced, didn't care about. All of a sudden, something happened, guys. It was electric. I can't explain it. The next day, I took a psychological test. I scored under 10% on my anxiety level. I had restless leg syndrome 5 days before. I'm walking around this rehab telling people I found God, and people are like, who is this cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs kid, right? What's up with this guy, right? And they asked me to go to this place in Minnesota called The Retreat. At first, I said no. And then they were like, Terry, you've lost everything. What else do you have to lose? And I finally put my life in someone else's hand to make decisions for me. I've never done that in my entire life. That God consciousness, when something happened, and I said, whatever you think is best. And I went out to Minnesota, and this place is a beautiful place called The Retreat. There's like 4 people on staff. Most of the people who were there are doing 12-step work, no insurance, no clinical, right? I didn't even know. I'm like, where the white coats at? I'm so used to the clinical side of rehab. Where are they at? And they're all united under the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And this is the first time I opened it up. And guys, I did not want to pick up the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. You know why? Because I thought it was too big. Like, screw that thing. That thing's too big. But then when I opened it up, the first page, it said, there's a solution. We have a way out. We have a way up, and we have a way out, right? We have a way up, and we have a way out. And the nice invisible line on top of page 25, it says, so many want to stop but cannot. Why? Because they don't know the information. It's my responsibility to pass it along to you. I learned about the allergy and the doctor's opinion. When I drink, I get thirsty. I want more. I learned about the real alcoholic on page 21, how I'm not different from other people. I'm different from other drinkers. I'm different from the moderate drinker. These cats could take one shot and walk away. That's not me. I'm different from the hard drinker. There's sufficiently strong reason, ill health, falling in love, or change your environment. These cats could stop or moderate. I had a doctor point blank tell me in my face, Terry, you will die if you ever drink ever again. That didn't stop me. But what about the real alcoholic? My qualifier is I lost all control once I put liquor and I put it into my system. I learned on page 24 how I lost the power of choice in drink. Circle that word in. And that means mind, body, and spirit. I lost power, choice, and control in all 3 areas. I learned on page 24 how I'm beyond human aid. Rehabs can't stop me. That's a human power. My family can't stop me. That's a human power. Jails can't stop me. Meetings can't stop me. Sponsor can't stop me. I can keep going on. I learned how to repeated humiliation, how to concede to my innermost self that I'm a real alcoholic. This delusion, like other people are presently maybe had to be smashed. Guys, I'm sitting in my 6th rehab in Minnesota. Do you even know where I'm at in Minnesota? Thinking, how can I successfully drink and how can I successfully stay sober at the same time? That delusion had to be smashed. Had to be smashed. Back in the 1930s, the word smash had a big significance to it, right? What they were doing, they were separating atoms. Well, when you smash atoms together, you create a hydrogen bomb. That delusion had to be smashed. Had to be smashed. I learned on page 52 how my life is unmanageable, how me on my own power, I can't fix or manage my personal relationships. I can't do it. I can't. How me on my own power, I can't control my emotional natures. I can't do it. How me on my own power, I can't make my fears go away. How me on my own power, I can't make myself happy. How me on my own power, I can't make misery or depression go away. How me on my own power, I can't be a real help to other people. I lack power. I lack power. It says on page 44, to be doomed in alcoholic death or to live on a spiritual basis are not easy alternatives to face. Not easy alternatives to face, right? If you're the real alcoholic, there's no door number 3. Trust me, I tried. But here's the kicker. I suck at doing both of those. I suck at blotting out my consciousness. I mean, I tried drinking myself to death, keep waking up. I suck at that. And I also suck at accepting spiritual help. You know why? Take a wild guess, Norm. I have what is called ADD, alcoholic defiance disorder. I've resisted everything in this program until I got my butt thoroughly whooped. And when I was finally sold on the ideas contained in this book and I accepted the plan outlined in this book, my life started to change. Do the work and God will work on you. And when I got to We Agnostics, I had that prejudice, right? And I was asked this really simple question. I was reading with a new guy earlier, and I asked him this question as well. And it's on page 47. It says, do you believe, which is for the agnostic, or are you even willing to believe, which is for the atheist, that there is a power greater than yourself? Right? And when I was asked that question, Terry, do you believe? I'm like, no, back up. Don't even ask me that question. Okay, Terry, are you even willing to believe? And I said, oh yeah, I'm willing to believe. I don't trust me anymore. And my sponsor looked right at me, said, Terry, you're on your way. You're on your way. This book is not the treasure, guys. It's a map. It's a treasure map to the power which will help you live and live happy. This is all about an acquisition of power. It says lack of power is my dilemma on page 45. On page 85, it says the problem's been removed. What problem? Lack of power. I have an acquisition of power today. There's a power in my life that is separating me from alcohol, that has released me from alcohol. And it's because I did the work and God worked on me. And when I got to this point in the book where my sponsor said, when you became a real alcoholic, you lost power, choice, and control. I could not postpone or evade. I had to fearlessly face this proposition that either God is everything or else he is nothing. He either is or he isn't. What is your choice to be? And I'll never forget this, guys. I'll never forget this. I'm sitting at a coffee shop called Caribou in St. Paul, Minnesota. And my sponsor is like, can you explain God? And I'm like, hell yeah, I can explain God. Just completely tongue-tied. He's like, it's pretty hard to explain everything, Terry. Because God is everything and everything's God and you're not God. Right then and there, I was rocketed right into the fourth dimension of existence. I couldn't even dream. God can't be explained, but he could be experienced. I'm going to say that one more time. God can't be explained, but he could be experienced. I can run out of money. I can run out of prestige. I can run out of gas while I'm driving, but I can never run out of God. And guys, when I got out of rehab, I had nothing. Terry, what is your choice to be? Is God everything or else he's nothing? God is everything. Let's rock and roll. Live life forward, understand it backwards. Guys, when I follow the dictates of a higher power, when I put my life and my will into the loving arms of a power greater than myself, my life is incredible, right? Live life forward, understand it backwards. In the time, it feels like there's calamity or there's destruction and all sorts of things that are going on in your life, right? It's life. Welcome back to the land of the living, right? Welcome back to the land of the living, everyone. Doesn't last that long. But when I look back, when I went towards God, my life changed. My life changed. You know, and then this third step, there's an invisible line under the third step prayer. I don't know if anyone's really seen this, but it says, we thought well before taking this step, making sure we were ready to at last abandon ourselves utterly to him. That's an instruction. I did not do that. I missed that one. I'm 9 months sober, right? And I'm going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. You know why? I had a job interview. And what happened? They didn't call me back. And I thought it was the end of the world. And I called my sponsor, Dan. You know what I said to my sponsor? I need help with this. Can you tell me what to do? He's like, did you pray about it? I'm like, what? Did I pray about it? I called you. You're the guru. You're the man. Tell me what to do. He's like, you just need to pray about it. I'm like, you SOB. Who do you think you are? And I get off the phone. I don't know, guys, I don't know about you, but there is immense pain right before a real surrender. Not one of those wish-washy ones where I read the third step prayer and I continue reading. I always get a kick out of that because that's what I did, right? I'm talking about the real deal. Real deal. Right? I mean, guys, you weren't even allowed into a meeting in the 30s unless you admitted you were an alcoholic and abandoned yourself utterly to God and do this real surrender in front of 2, 3, 4 people. And these 3, 4 people would just look at the next one like, yeah, that was a real surrender. Let him in. Oh, no, that wasn't. He's not allowed. No wonder they had a 75% success rate back then, right? I'm like, God, but a real surrender. And I went on my knees, guys, and I abandoned myself utterly to this power. And I had an answered prayer. I had no idea that God had a 24/7 hotline. You could touch base with him anytime. I had no idea there's a 24/7 hotline. It says it on the bottom of page 58. Remember, we deal with alcohol, cunning, right? It's progressive, right? Baffling, right? It's progressive. Powerful, it's fatal, right? Without help, it is too much for me. But there is one, circle that word one, who has all power. Now, how much power do I have? None. If he has all the power. And that one is your sponsor. You should call him now. I'll let that one sit. I need a break. No, it does not say that. It says there is one who's all power. That one's Karen. You should call her now. No, it does not say there's one who's all power. That one's Giselle. You should call her now. There's one who's all power. That one's JP. You should call. No, it doesn't say. It says there's one who's all power. That one's God. Man, you find him now. How it works is actually instructions, directions, clear-cut directions. Right now is a time frame. Time frame, meaning right here, right now. Where's God? Right here, right now. God is everything. God is the great reality. God is right now. And I finally made that decision that hereafter in this drama life, God was going to be my director. I was going to be his actor. He was the principal. I was his agent. He was a father, and I'm his child. He was the employer, and I'm his employee. And how do I know I'm working for the new employer? I stopped working for the old one, and that was me. Remarkable things started to happen. I mean, remarkable things started to happen. I had a higher power before. Now I literally have the highest power in my life. That's if I kept close to him and performed his work well. And how do I perform his work well? By having a servant's heart. Having a servant's heart. I love what Bob D talks about. Came into Alcoholics Anonymous, a big shot, worked my way all the way up to servant, all the way up to the top spots, servant. Right? Guys, Christmas is coming. Christmas is coming, right? I want to get some presents for Christmas, right? So I'm going to go into my self-will toolkit, which is located on page 61 of your book. And I'm going to be kind, generous, passionate, self-sacrificing so I can get presents. And I find out, oh, damn, I'm not going to be on Santa's nice list. Okay, I'm going to go to the naughty list. I'm going to be mean, egotistical, selfish, and dishonest. No, I don't do either of those today. I'm just that happy elf, that happy, joyous, and free elf, just carrying out God's will with no strings attached. No strings attached. And I came back to New York. And actually, before that, I did my fifth step. And after I did my fifth step, I found out what the truth is, right? Found out who I'm not, right? Found out where I was playing God, my level of selfishness, and where I was blocked. Guys, our fourth step is just to face and get rid of the stuff that's blocking us from this power, right? Really easy, but my mind likes to play tricks when I'm writing. I actually tried hiding my sex conduct from my sponsor, Giselle, while I was doing the fifth step. I thought he wouldn't notice, right? And he's like, "You missing something?" Right? And in the action says we're trying to have a new attitude, a new relationship with this power. What's the definition of new? Something I've never experienced before. And when I actually said that conduct inventory out loud, I had that experience, those promises, which are on page 20 on 75, right? Walking hand in hand with on the broad highway with our Creator. My fears fell from us. I was delighted. I was more like I was in shock afterwards, right? When you clean house to the point, something comes in. Something comes in. There's that clear channel, right? And I get a call from my wife 2 days later, and I'm going through a divorce with her. I'm having my lawyer attack her, take everything she's got, whatever. And I get a call from her. She's like, "Hey, Terry, I'm just looking to, financially dead this divorce. Let's just get it over. Let's work together." And my sponsor before that, just kill her with kindness, kill her with kindness, kill her with kindness and love. And that's what I did. And my wife and I, we started talking, and we're back together. And today, my wife and I have a beautiful relationship together. Phil, she does a great 10-step. Great 10-step. Whenever I'm wrong, she promptly admits it. Whenever I'm wrong, she promptly admits it. So I'm back in New York, guys. And, I made 2 amends, and I was amazed. I was simply amazed when I went through the amends process. I just did 2, and I'm like, you know what? I'm good. It's easy to let up on a program of action and rest on our accomplishments, right? It's simple, but it's not easy. A price had to be paid. That meant the destruction of self-centeredness. In the 1930s, destruction meant to take apart piece by piece by piece by piece. I need to take apart piece by piece self-centeredness with action and with God's aid. Sometimes we fall into a trap, guys. God kept me sober. God kept me sober. God kept me sober. If that was true, the big book would be 1 page and 4 words. God kept me sober. No, it says on page 85, what I really have is a daily reprieve contingent upon the maintenance of. That's my new song. Maintenance of our spiritual condition. That means we got work to do. Work. And when you do this work, you catch the grace of God. You catch the grace of God. And your ideas, your old thinking, your emotions, which are your feelings, and your attitudes, which are your belief systems, are totally started to change, right? You ever guys move furniture in your apartments or in your houses? That's what we're doing with your soul. We're having an entire psychic change. Where does the word psychic come from? It comes from the word psyche. Where does the word psyche come from? Soul. We're changing our souls here, our way of life. 5% of my problem is drinking. 95% of it's my living. I have a living problem. We're changing our way of life here, right? It talks about the definition of the 4th dimension actually on page 25 and on page 8, right? We've had deep and effective spiritual experiences which revolutionize our whole attitude towards life. That's our mind, towards our fellows, which is physical, and towards God's universe, that's spirit. Mind, body, and spirit, they're all interlocked together. And as a result of that is the 4th dimension, which is essential fact. Our Creator has entered into our hearts and lives in a way of life, a design for living, right? Mind, body, and spirit all interlocked together, living in the moment to moment to moment to moment to moment to moment to moment basis, right? Where's God? He's right here, right now. Where is He? Within you. So I balked on step 9. The obsession came back. It came back hard. I was at a traffic light looking to make a left to go to the bar or make a right to go to a meeting. That's where I was. I called my sponsor. I'm like, "Hey, man, I'm thinking about drinking. I'm even dreaming about it. I'm fantasizing about it. The love of my life is calling my name," right? And he's like, "Did you make your amends?" I'm like, "No." "How'd you know?" Like, "Maybe you need to make your amends." And I get off the phone. I'm still in my car, and I got my phone, and I'm looking at my phone about to call this guy. And I thought there was this enemy in my mind. He was an enemy in my mind, right? It says 9 out of 10 times the unexpected happens. I was expecting this to happen, expecting that to happen, how he's going to say that, how I'm going to drive to Connecticut, maybe fight him, all that stuff was just going through my little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs brain, right? And I'm just praying for the willingness to call him, shaking, just like Dr. Bob was when he did his amends, trembling. That's exactly what happened with me. That's my experience. And I was just telling myself, reminding myself that I'm willing to go to any lengths for victory over alcohol, just repeatedly saying it over and over and over again. And I accidentally called him. I'm like, oh, no. And I call him, he picks up the phone. He's like, hey, Terry, where have you been? I miss you. I love you. I had no idea that people had love and compassion for me. Right then and there, guys, I was rocketed into the fourth dimension of existence. I found out the two most important dates in my life. Claudia, it's not my sobriety date. It's not. My sobriety date just measures how much time I have. It was the day I was born and the day I found out why. And the day I found out why is to fit myself to be a maximum service to God and the people around me. Oh, let's rock and roll with these amends now. This is where the juice is at. This is where the juice is at. Oh, my feet start moving. This is not a program for people who want it, not a program for people who need it. It's a program for people who do it. And I started doing this work, right? And all of a sudden, I started to notice, like 2 weeks into my amends, I'm like, I'm not thinking about getting drunk. It's not whispering my name. I'm not fantasizing about it. I'm not even dreaming about it anymore. The obsession was lifted. God suddenly is a time frame, meaning right here, right now, I suddenly realized that God was doing for me what I could never do for myself. I entered the world of the spirit, the land of the milk and honey, the fourth dimension, the spirit universe. It hasn't returned since. It hasn't returned since. What happened when COVID happened? And why was I happy, joyous, and free during COVID? And because I was demonstrating these principles on my affairs and I was doing intensive work with other alcoholics, right? On the bottom of page 14, it says, if an alcoholic failed to perfect and enlarge his spiritual life through work and self-sacrifice for others, he could not survive the certain low spots and the certain trials ahead. If he didn't do any work, he would surely drink. If he drank, he would surely die. It's just the way it is with us. Why was I happy, joyous, and free that time? Because I was doing that stuff. We were doing some remarkable things in the beginning of COVID. I mean, I was helping people in England, Australia, Germany, France, Japan, California, shit, almost every state. I don't think I got Idaho down yet. Waiting to meet someone from Idaho yet. Canada, love my Canadian peeps. You guys got some strong recovery out there. I love it. The Fellowship of the Spirit meeting is one of my favorites. I mean, I was on a third step. We were doing a third step with 50 newcomers. And we all abandoned ourselves utterly to God in that moment. It was probably the most powerful thing I've ever done in my entire life. Obviously, I learned the mechanics of the big book. I learned the mechanics of the steps. I wanted to learn everything and read everything. Read Dr. Bob and the good old timers. AA comes of age, pass it on, quoting the book, want all this stuff, right? And all of a sudden, like, it started to fizzle, right? I started to become semi-restless, irritable, and discontent. I started to see those hideous four horsemen, terror, bewilderment, and frustration. They're starting to circle around me because what? I stopped demonstrating these principles in all my affairs. I stopped helping other alcoholics. I mean, I could keep going. I mean, it says on page 82, we feel a man is unthinking when he thinks that sobriety is enough. Bill's calling us dumb. He's saying that, right? He's like the guy that, the farmer that comes out of his cellar, right? Finds his home ruined by a tornado. He comes out, he's like, I don't see anything the matter here, Ma. Ain't it grand the wind stop blowing, right? I'm starting to fight with my wife every single night. She's on my inventory. I'm the victim. Ain't it grand the wind stop blowing? I'm starting to play the blame game. You're the problem. You're the problem. You're the problem. Ain't it grand the wind stop blowing? On awakening, oh, it's meditation. No, on awakening, let's check out Bitcoin. Let's see where Bitcoin's at. Ain't it grand the wind stop blowing, right? Love and tolerance is my code. Yeah, okay. It's more like gossip and slander is my code. Ain't it grand the wind stop blowing, right? I'm starting to collide with people at work. I actually talked back to my boss. I called my boss a clown. Ain't it grand the wind stop blowing? I mean, I was delivering pizzas at this time. You know, literally delivering pizzas, and then people have a credit card. They stiff me. They don't give me a tip. I'm like, okay, yeah, $5 on here. Ain't a grand to win. Stop blowing. I'm learning all the literature. I want to sound super cool, right? And all this stuff because I want people to love me when I speak. And I could care less about the newcomer. I just want applause. I want people to love me. Ain't a grand to win. Stop blowing. There could be people fighting for their lives. And all I care about is what you think about me. Ain't it grand to win, stop blowing. I have people call me up. I'm like, you know what? End call. I'm busy right now. Ain't it grand to win, stop blowing. I got people calling me up on football Sunday. Hey, Terry, you want to chat real quick? Hold on 1 second. Can I call you right back? Boom. Ain't it grand to win, stop blowing, right? I could keep going on and on. I got people calling me. You know who called me? And my friend called me up. He's like, hey, Terry, can you go out somewhere? I'm like, you know what? No, man. There's those no's. They come back. No, no, no. Ain't it grand the wind stop blowing? I mean, God, people ask me how you doing, Terry. I'm like, I'm hanging in there, like hanging on from a cliff. Now today I say I've never had it better. Just like Chuck Steve says, right? Never had it so good. That's what I say, right? Ain't it grand the wind stop blowing, right? You know, money's not my higher power. Ain't it grand the wind stop blowing? I'm on meetings all the time. And I just turn my video off and I go play video games. So ain't it grand the wind stop blowing, right? I had a reconstruction of the ego, the resurgence of the ego, right? Guys ever hear that? What is it? Resentments or premeditated? What is it? Expectations or premeditated resentments or something like that, right? Or diseases outside doing push-ups or something like. You guys ever hear that? It's got a lot of validity to it, right? It has a lot of validity to it. It's more like my disease is in the other room, taking acting classes. He's taking acting classes behind even my best motives. Best motives. It talks about on page 61. Everybody loves page 62. Everybody loves page 25. Everybody loves all these different. My favorite page is page 61 when it says, "Am I a victim of the delusion? I could wrest satisfaction, happiness out of this world if I only manage well." Victim in the 1930s meant to be tricked or duped, right? What is it called? God, delusion is a psychotic belief system. When I try to rest means I try to force it out of you, and management manipulate. So let's repeat this. Am I being tricked or duped by the false psychotic belief system that I could force satisfaction and happiness out of this world if only I manipulate well? That's what I was doing. I was managing the principles. I was managing the steps of my life. I was managing you, and I was managing every area of my life. What was the final straw? What was the final? Here's actually a spiritual exercise for everyone in this room. On page 61, go to your life and ask yourself where you think you're managing well. And ask yourself, did you still drink? Here's another spiritual exercise for you. I look at every part of your area and ask yourself where you're managing well and were you happy? Right? Actually, here's another spiritual exercise. Go to 2 to 3 people who you've given spiritual consent to post you up on your BS and ask them, how do you see me running my life on self-will? And you shut up and you listen. If they're non-alcoholics, ask them, do you think I'm authentic? And you shut up and you listen, and they'll tell you how you run the show. They tell you how you run the show. And what happened with me, I'm shaking, looking at myself in the mirror. What was the final straw? There was a snowstorm, Phil, a snowstorm. I called out of work 5 days in advance. Ain't it grand the wind stop blowing, right? 5 days in advance. I'm looking at myself in the mirror. I am shaking. I'm not thinking drink solution, drink answer, Dan. I'm not. I'm thinking suicide solution, suicide answer. I'm at the jumping off place in recovery. In recovery. I was not being a demonstration of how it works. I was not being a demonstration of inaction. I was being a demonstration of Terry. Demonstration, growing in the image and likeness of Terry. And what happens? I was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs and suicide. Pain is a touchstone for growth. I decided to go through the steps again. I did steps 4 through 9 in one day. Newsflash, you don't have to take you a year to do it. If your butt is on fire, you will do the work. I'll tell you that. You will do the work. And part of my 5th step is I had a fear of mine. I couldn't get my wife pregnant. And I made my amends. I took a nap and I wake up And my wife gives me a letter, tells me she's pregnant. I was rocking right back into a fourth dimension of existence. I couldn't even dream. Our literature says to expect miracles, guys. Do the work and God works on you. Do the work and God works on you. Watch him show up. Watch God show up between the raindrops. He does. I'm a living demonstration of the power of God in one's life. Why? Because I did the work. I resisted every single step of the way, but I did it. My son was born on August 2nd, 2021. His name is Phoenix James Pomeran, PJ, my little man. And I was in the hospital room when then my wife had she had blood clots. So there were like 10, 14 doctors in there making sure that everything was all right. I was there with her, mind, body, and spirit, holding her hand, my head against her head. I was there in the moment. And all of a sudden we hear, wah! And my little guy was born, Phoenix James. That was funny. My buddy calls me up 2 weeks after my son's birth. And he's like, how you doing, Terry? I'm like, oh man, I haven't been sleeping. He's like, aha, now you truly understand step 3, Terry. Your life is not your own. Your life is not your own. And I look at my son, he smiles all the time. All the time. And I'm looking at him and I'm thinking about page 55. Just thinking about page 55 that we're fooling ourselves. So deep down, every man and woman and child is the fundamental idea of God. Guys, the great reality is within you. He's within you. And I'm looking at my son. He's smiling, giggling. He's not thinking the dry success is on. I have arrived, cursing myself for being a weakling in the mirror. The mind and body are marvelous mechanism. Liquor ceased to be a luxury, became a necessity. No. He's a constant connection with the power greater. This is what we're doing, guys. We're going back home. We're going back home to the land of milk and honey. Do you want to recreate your life? Do you want to be 20 years old again? Right? This is what we're doing. Do I want to be 4 years old again? Oh, yeah, I do. Right? We're going back to who we are. We're going back home. I want to talk a little about what my life is today, and I want to talk about how much time I got. 4 minutes. When I think about you, I don't think about me. I don't suffer from what doesn't happen anymore. I don't suffer from what does not happen anymore. There's a deadly earnestness deep down within me. But yeah, I'm loving life. I'm on a different level. And I continuously grow and grow and grow. And it happens when I work with another alcoholic, right? When I work with another man or another woman or with a group of people, whatever it is, right? It's not a duet. It's a trio. Me, that other person, and God. We're both doing the work, and God is working on us. Right? Watch God show up between the raindrops. Right? And I'm working with a gentleman yesterday, and it just hit me. And I want to read this to you guys, and I'll wrap it up. On page 40 of our book, on the top of the page, it says this is Fred, he said he was interested and conceded that he had some of the symptoms. So Fred's like, I'm a little bit pregnant. Not fully pregnant, I'm a little pregnant, right? But he was a long way admitting that he could do nothing about himself. He was positive that this humiliating experience, plus the knowledge he acquired, would keep him sober for the rest of his life. Self-knowledge would fix it. And while I'm reading with this guy, Spirit was like, ask him what his most humiliating experience was. I don't know, it just popped into my head. I don't know why. Like I said, I take statements and turn them into questions, but I've never done that with this page. And he couldn't really think of something. And I'm like, you know what? Let me tell you something about me. And I totally forgot about this. I have a superpower. I forget, right? I thought I had panic disorder. And with part of that, when I'm sober, stone cold sober, feel like ripping my skin off. And that's what I did. Scratch, scratch, scratch. I had markings all over me, completely humiliated. And when I'm in rehab in what is it called, in Brooklyn, I go over to Minnesota. That was a layover in a diner, and I was with two friends from AA, right? And thank God they were there. Thank God they were there. And I saw this ice cold Corona. It didn't even occur to me about this humiliating experience I had 40 days prior. It didn't even take a thought. I just thought about that ice cold Corona. Like, whoa, that looks good. And Alcoholics Anonymous was there. God was there. And he worked with those two men and like, Terry, let's go. And I took a plane to Minnesota and the rest was history. I completely forgot about that. What I do when I go through the work, I actually solidify my foundation, which is on page 17, my cement, my common problem, and also that common solution. Once those two are connected and my arch is in place, I'm standing on an unshakable foundation, an unmovable foundation. I'm still standing on this foundation, a free man today. Guys, I'm 1000% convinced that God has a successful recycling business. He takes trash, he turns it into treasure. He took me, a piece of trash, a tornado roaring through the lives of others, a victim of delusions and illusions, an unlovely creature, and he transformed me. He transformed me into a father, into a husband, into a friend that says yes, into an employer. I have a business today who takes care of their employees, into a man of forgiveness, a man of faith, a man of love, and most importantly, a messenger of hope. My name is Terry. I'm a recovered alcoholic. I love every single one of you, and I hope to see you guys on the firing line. I'll put my number in the chat, and hope everyone has a good evening. Thank you.